Alright, so today we are back to continue the long lost series, Fixing a Subscriber's Mix. I'm just playing, but it's been a while since we've done one. If you guys aren't familiar with this series, I have a subscriber send in some beat track outs and then I mix it in front of you guys. So let's get into it. Alright, so this beat is from Ascension Beats, and this is how it sounds right now, exactly how it was imported. So obviously you could see we need to do some gain staging, right? Things are very loud. We need to bring a lot of this down. Other than that, a little bit of organization, which I'm going to do inside of here real quick. So what I like to do is just kind of color and group these. So for the sample, we could go with like a blue for all like the leads. So we'll just get this blue again. And then for kicks and 808s, I like to use red. So we'll just get like a red. It's more like pink, but it's all good. For claps, we'll go with anything. We'll go with like yellow, so like the rest of the drums. So kind of all cymbal work, including the clap, will make yellow. And then percussion and added things, I don't know, we'll go with like green because it's right here. All right, so everything's all nice and color coded so we could see it easily. And now we're gonna go in here to the channel rack and start to turn down a lot of this input, especially in the 808s, the kicks, it's really loud. So let's go do that. And I'm gonna just go by looking at it. Probably gonna have to just turn down everything so you get the kick. Just kind of going through here, checking it all. Now we got some headroom. So this is good, right? Now we have some headroom to work with, so we can close this out. The first thing I'm actually going to add on the master is a linear EQ. I'm gonna just cut everything out below 20 hertz, and I'm gonna be mixing into this. I'm not gonna add it at the end because it's something I would have on anyways. And let's put this to a high pass, and 20 hertz, I think it only goes to 22. Yeah, 22. That's fine. And we're just gonna mix into that. So from here, what I like to do is have the whole mix playing. I'm gonna make sure that I mono the kick and 808 for this beat. Something I do, depending, unless it's like a sine bass that has a lot of stereo information and it sounds good, I like to have my kicks and 808 straight down the middle, so it's coming out of both speakers at the same amplitude, and it just makes it sound more powerful, right? But if this was like a sine bass and it had nice stereo information, I would keep it. But like I said, an easy way to know, honestly, if you don't, you could just take an analyzer, right? If you don't see it or hear it in mono and you want to see like why, we could go over here and get an analyzer, solo the 808, and you'll see it's straight down mono, right? So even if we put it in mono, it's still a mono source, but for me, it's habit to just put it in mono. And if you want to see if the kick's in mono, maybe you can't hear it or you don't know, solo the kick, we can clear this. And actually the kick isn't just straight up and down. Now I definitely want all my kicks mono, especially the main kick, because I want it really powerful. So I'm gonna come over here and I'm gonna actually throw this straight into mono, and now you'll see if I clear it out, now the kick's mono, so it's coming out of both speakers the same volume, so that's good. And from here, I'm gonna just get a nice level going. So for this is really just using your ears, leveling out things that, depending on how you want it mixed, you know, you want your kicks louder, your hi-hats, maybe you like to have loud 808s. It all depends really on how you like to mix. But what I'm gonna do is just throw this in mono, and since we have headroom on all the tracks and we still have headrooms on the master, I'm gonna go through here and just start to get a nice level for all this, right? So real quick, I'm gonna just turn the sample off and I'm gonna work on all the drums and just get like a basic level for it. I'm not too familiar with this beat. I'm actually listening to it for like the second time probably since he sent it. So let me just familiarize myself with these sounds. Okay. I'm gonna pan this one over, give it some room. This one over here. And obviously we're in mono, so you're not gonna hear the panning, but I know I want some things panned left and right. Let's give 12 a little bit more gain so we can work with more room. We need to turn it up. I'm actually gonna solo all these by themselves real quick. So like I said, I'm not familiar with the beat too much, so I need to really hear. Okay, so this is more of a shaker. I'm gonna just rename this shaker. This is like a hi-hat call it like hi-hat 3. Let's bring everything else in. I want the shaker panned over to the right. All right, this sounds good. So far, let's bring in the sample, go back in mono. All right, I didn't see that second piano, I forgot about that one. So right now it sounds muddy, right? But we have a basic leveling going for this, so that's good. So now I'm gonna kind of go in here and process these drums a little bit. So right off the bat, these need to come down a little bit. All I did was click and hold control for that. Let's actually bring these two down. So from here, I want to get this kick and 808 sounding better together. I like how they sound decent, but for the 808, I definitely want to put some R bass on it and get some harmonics from it. So what's cool about R bass, if I solo this and show you, is what this does. I don't know how Waves created it, just like I don't know how they create any of their plugins, but they have some crazy algorithm. So I'm gonna try to explain this pretty simple. Let's see how it goes. Pretty much, let's say we have a small speaker, right? And it doesn't produce a lot of very low end frequencies. Maybe it only does from 150 hertz up higher, right? So down below, like, I don't know, 50 hertz, 20 hertz, it doesn't really produce it too well. It's a tiny little speaker, right? What this plugin actually does is create like harmonics of that we can hear as humans and think it's the fundamental frequency, but it's actually a harmonic of that. And that kind of doesn't make sense too well, but if you read the plugin manual, it'll kind of make more sense. So pretty much what this is allowing us to do in a very easy term is create harmonics, right? We get to select a frequency. So we could say, okay, 56 hertz. Everything below that, use this intensity and create harmonics of everything below that for us. So pretty much what that's saying is I select everything below 56 hertz. I want this plugin to create harmonics, right? Kind of like a distortion or saturation does, but in its own way. And then this intensity knob, I can actually control it. So if I go ahead and press play, this is our original signal, and these are the harmonics. Watch when I start to bring it up. And to make this more obvious, if we go up higher and we say, okay, everything below 135 hertz, start to create harmonics for, watch, you're gonna hear what it does. So this is our harmonic section of this, right? That's what I want to do. I want to emphasize some of those harmonics. Not that high though. So I'm going to go over here, probably set it to like 60, 70 hertz. Let's go 64. We're already right here. And I'm just going to play the kick with it and start to bring in just a little bit of harmonics, nothing crazy. Make sure our gain's the same. On and off, let's see. Let's bring it down a tiny bit. And I'm gonna just set it there. That's all I wanna do is add a little bit of harmonics to it, right? Kind of just emphasize that low end a bit more. And now we have the kick and 808 playing. Bring in the drums. The clap sounds pretty good. For the clap, I want to add a little bit of body to it, right? I feel like it's lacking there. So that's good. Give it a little bit more body to it. Let me turn down my output a little bit. Sounds a little bit thicker. And then I'm going to bring everything else in a second, but right now I'm going to throw this in mono, and I'm actually going to move the kick out of the 808 just where the kick hits, right? So because I add a lot of that upper harmonic on the 808, what I'm going to do now is kind of carve a little bit out when the kick comes in, because now the 808's registering a little bit higher with R bass, which is cool. So let's go over here. You guys see me do this a lot. It's a form of side chaining, but not a full side chain, because I don't necessarily like to fully duck my 808s unless, you know, it calls for it. So let's get an EQ. It's going to be around 50 hertz. So let's go over here and let's go right here. Link to control. As always, peak, inverted, 0.5. And now it moves. Cool. And then we just need to bring this over to about 50 hertz. And then over here we can control the volume and the decay. Let's turn up tension a little bit. As you can see, the decay over to the left is going to be slower, so let's just time it with the movement. When the kick comes out, I don't want it anymore. So that's sounding good. So now that's moved out the way. They're blending a bit better together. So let's bring in everything else, and then we'll start to work on the sample next. So there's definitely some work that needs to be done on this. I'm going to bring up an EQ. Let's go actually with waves, Q10. And let's start to bring this out. All right, I don't want it too thin, but I definitely want to move out the unneeded frequencies and let that bass occupy all of that low end for this. And then that piano has some low end in it too, so we can't forget that. And we are still in mono, so if it sounds a bit weird, that's why. So let's go over here to another band, and let's boost it up. And let's hunt out some of that frequency I don't like. It's like the 300 to 500 range. Right here, it's all nasally boxy. I don't want it in there. Let's bring it out by like 3 dB. Checking stereo. Sounds a lot better. So let's bring this piano in, and for tutorial purposes, I'm gonna actually just solo these together so you guys can hear them. Try to mix with everything playing at once so you can really train your ears. But for this, you know, I gotta let you guys hear the issues. So let's go to where these two play together right here. And that's why the color coding helps, because I know if I want to look for that unity piano, I'm just gonna look for something else that's blue because it's color coded with the sample. So it helps your eyes mix things quicker. That's why I like to do it. So I'm gonna just copy this over because I know I'm gonna do a little bit of the same thing. Not exactly the same, but save myself a little bit of time. We'll turn this one off. And for here, let's see. So there's a lot of low end in there, right? A lot of low mids too, that are definitely going to clash with the 808, but we're going to make them work together because I want to, you know, kind of keep some of those. So let's keep the 808 playing, and let's start doing this. I want to add a little bit of high end to this. Let's go over here and switch this to a high shelf. I like the high end in here. Around 4K. You got to be careful with that area because it can really stick out in a mix, but I definitely want it to. All right, so now let's listen to them all together. And then stereo. And watch when I take it off. They just play a lot better together. You're definitely gonna be able to hear it in mono. Let's do that again. Let's take off all the processing. blends better together, right? So we'll bring that kick back in, and then let's see how it's sounding so far with everything. And this riser, let's bring that up. So let's go over to 16. There it is. And I want to add a reverb to this. I'm going to just go ahead and grab the fruity reverb. Have a big reverb, not too much low end, lots of high end in it. Spread it out a tiny bit. I really want that to just be echoing in the back. Let's see how everything else is sounding. Shaker, let's add some high end to it. Let's just get an EQ. Add a bunch of high end to it, right? Sounding good. Let's go back over to the sample. And I still want to... Oh, that's cool. You can hear like a little bit of the beat in the background. I didn't catch that last time. I want to add an exciter to it. So let's go in here, set this back here. Let's see. Oh, that stands out a lot more. That's a lot better. And then a little bit of reverb on this. Nothing crazy. Let's get the waves, reverb. Where's that at? Reverb, cool. And let's go ahead, turn down the wet, get rid of some of this, dampen it a tiny bit, and the high end too. And I like to pause my reverb so I can hear the tail. So nothing crazy, a nice little reverb on it. Let's hear it again. And then the clap. Okay, this plugin is crazy. Gain reduction by Joey Sturgis. It's wild. I'm going to show you what it could do to this clap just by itself. It's going to be really loud, so turn your speakers down. Right, it's meant to have an extreme amount of gain reduction and be really aggressive. So I'm actually going to turn down the slay knob, turn the body knob up a little bit, and blend this in with the mix just to give the clap a little bit more beef. Because like I said, I thought it was a little bit dry. Not dry, sorry. I thought it was a little bit thin when I first heard it. So let's see. All right, let's see with the drums. Back it off a tiny bit. So we're kind of using this as like a parallel compression. And the hi-hats are sounding good. I'm going to check on the percussions again one more time. Make sure I like how they're sounding, because if I don't think they need anything on them, then I'll just leave them. It's good sound selection. Now this, I feel like, is more of a style choice. So if I was mixing for a client, I wouldn't try to switch things too much. But for the sake of this video, I think this percussion can use a little bit of reverb because I think the tail kind of cuts off too fast. And since I don't actually have the files and I'm working with only track outs, I'm going to have to add like a small reverb to it. So watch what that does. Just helps out, right? A quick little adjustment to make it sound like it's not cutting out too fast. You could have just done the fade out with the file if you have it, but if you don't, you're gonna have to, try to figure out some tricks to kind of add a little bit of tail to it. So let's go back in mono and check this out. on the relation with the sample and the piano to the rest of the drums, it's kind of going to be stylistic. I like a happy medium. I like the drums really loud, but I also don't like the samples or pianos or melodies, whatever, super quiet. So what I'm going to do is actually check out on the mains real quick. I'm going to take the headphones off, so I'm going to have to mute the video here. All right, so I think this is sounding really good. The last thing that I want to do is kind of clip the kick a little bit. And for that, we're going to use one of the plugins in FL. Let me put this back in mono just out of habit, called Wave Shaper. And we're going to use it in a certain way that we can get some clipping to happen. So let's find that. I'm super blind. Wow, I'm literally on it, bro. I need to wear my glasses. That was, wow. All right, so let's click right here on the settings. And let's go to, let's see, all we need to do actually is just click once here. Let's see if it does it. It always adds two. You know what, that's fine. Oh, perfect, it did it. Okay, I thought I was gonna overlap it. So from here, if we take this pre-knob, right, you see the kick, it's gonna come through here. And we start to put it on the part that is bent, I guess you could say. We're gonna start to introduce a little bit of clipping, and the further we go, the more we're gonna clip it. You're going to hear it, right? So we can actually look at this real quick. Let's go over here. Let's go to visual and let's get Wave Candy. Open it up and I'll kind of show you guys how this is going to look. If we open up the actual kick, the audio editor, you can see it kind of starts to happen in the beginning, right? I want to start to affect a little bit more over here. So now watch what's going to happen once we start to add this in. So we have this going, right? And then we have the Wave Shaper. So I'm going to keep playing it and watch when I start to add the pre over. You can really see it starting to square it out, right? Let's go ahead and pause it. Okay, I finally got it. Look it, it's way more squared off, right? So that's pretty much what we're doing. Just want to kind of show you guys that. That would be pretty cool. But from here, like I said, I'm going to just go ahead and do this while the whole mix is playing. That was a mission to do and get set up. And I don't want to do too much because I am going to probably use a soft clipper on the master too, maybe, or a limiter. So let's make sure that this is peaking at the same volumes. So let's do before. So about -8, -7. We added a little bit, right? So let's go over here to the post. Before and after. Sounding a bit louder, which is good. And in the mix, you won't really hear the clipping too much, but you'll hear that the kick's louder. So before, after. And that sounds good. And then from here, to get this loud, we have a million different ways we can use a limiter. But what I'm actually going to do, let's close these out. We don't need this. All right, and to get our loudness, all I'm going to do is push into a soft clipper for this video to kind of give it a bit of punch. We can use a limiter or anything else. So I need to bring up a couple things. Bring up soft clipper, a trim plugin, and then something to read the levels. All right, so I got Virtual Rack by Slate for the trim plugin. Kind of excessive. You can use any trim plugin or an EQ and use the input, but I want to use Virtual Mix Rack because it looks cool. And I haven't used it in a while, so why not use it, right? And then we have a loudness meter for the LUFS and the true peak, and then the soft clipper for the end. So actually all I'm going to do is go into Virtual Mix Rack, use the trim plugin to push gain into the clipper, and then I'm going to use the loudness meter to kind of check what we're doing. I'm going to have it before the soft clipper just to kind of see how much we're going over, but I'm going to use my ears first. So all I'm going to do is press play and start to push this in until it sounds bad. Oh, and one more thing to note on the soft clipper, go ahead and take this down to 79% because at 80, sometimes you actually can go over 0 dB. I've had it happen to me a lot when I look at true peak, and right there, it stays right below it. So back into Virtual Mix Rack. So I want a little bit of that kick to get distorted and clipped in a good way. So I'm kind of pushing it hard, but let's go ahead and see what we're doing. So with this before soft clipper, I can see that we're going over by about 3.8, right? So if I switch this over here, you'll see it disappears. We're staying below. I'm using it above to kind of meter how much we're pushing. So I want to do maybe 4 to 5 dB so I can actually push this a little bit more and make sure it still sounds good. So you see we're doing a max of maybe 4 to 5 dB. We could push it a little bit more, but I don't want the kick to kind of go too crazy. So now I'm actually going to put this at the end, and I'm going to just check out what our readings are. So personally, I like to shoot for about 10 LUFS, negative 10 LUFS for most of the masters that I put out. We could push this a little louder if we were to compress a little bit more in certain areas, but I think this sounds good. It's hitting around that minus 10 area, so that's good. Spotify and certain things are going to accept like negative 14, negative 16. Everything has its own realm, right? But I like to sit around negative 10. I think it's nice and loud. And from here, I could say that this sounds pretty good and it's nice and loud. So from here, the only other thing I'll do is probably adjust that riser, which I didn't do, and then go from there. I'm actually going to turn off virtual mix so it's not too loud. And just take out a little bit of the fundamental, tiny bit. All right, and now let's listen to it. All right, thank you guys so much for watching. If you did like this video, leave a thumbs up. You guys can follow me on all social medias at Lifestyle Did It. Make sure to hit my site, lifestyledidit.com, for everything else. Other than that, subscribe to your boy, push notifications. Thanks.